Hey there, guys. Video Slack here. Excuse me. I have been a bit sick, so I really had to wait to make this video for you guys. And I'm just getting out being sick, so I do apologize for that. But I just really wanted to make this video because, of course, a little while ago, people were lately have just been asking me, what's my mental state and all that bullshit. And, it almost kind of messed up one of my videos because at one in a way, it kind of made me had to think of an answer for that. But at the same time, it kind of screwed up the mood of the video, and so I kind of had to restart that video. And it's not like I don't have an answer for that already, because people have always asked me about that for I'd say since I was a kid. But I kind of had to rethink about what I should say to you guys in terms of that, so that I don't just seem like just some nut, you know what I mean? And, and again, this has been something that, has, come up again and again and again since I was a kid. And, when I was a kid, I remember even some of my friends, would introduce me to the new kids in the class. They'd be like, hey, this is so and so. This is what they do. Hey, this is so and so. This is what they do. They do this and blah, blah. And then they'd come over to me. They'd be like, hey, here's this guy. He laughs at everything. And then, of course, I would just, laugh at what they just said. And so I've always just been kind of a laugher, when it comes to things like that. And, I don't laugh at everything, but, I understand, sometimes people will look at me and the way I laugh, and they might think that I laugh at everything, which is why I titled it like that. You know, People have always, pointed the finger at me and said I was weird, growing up. I think in some way I was always a little bit different than some of the other kids, growing up, at least to some degree in that way. And I just think it's just simply because my personality type is just a bit more rare than some of the others. And of course, I have, from time to time met people like myself, and that sometimes, might laugh at I'd say laugh at inappropriate times, or laugh at times when others aren't, feeling the same way, at the time. But the thing is, that's just how I've always, you know, have dealt with harsh reality, I would put it. And, of course, it's kind of evolved over time, since I've grown up, to say the least. Yes, I still remember that. Remember those old days when I used to say the least all the time. Oh, geez. Those were the days. But anyway, so yeah. And another way to kind of put it is, after especially dealing with harsh reality, you kind of have to learn how to look at things from a different perspective. And I understand that not everybody is going to see things the same way that I do. That's just how I, deal with harsh reality and drama, etc. That's how I manage to make myself feel better and deal with grief, and deal with my friends, etc. That's just how I've always dealt with it growing up. And again, like I said, it's evolved over time. Like I have, for the most part, gotten better at, not, you know, I'd say like taking other people's feelings into consideration and what they think into consideration when I laugh. So of course I have more control over it since I was younger, of course. And I take that more seriously and all that. But the thing is, you know, I could either take drugs or do some of the other shit that I sometimes see people doing, or I could just, laugh it off. is kind of the best way to put it. You know, and there's been so many times in my life where I gotta say, if they experienced what I experienced, they would just think that their lives were over and that everything was just over. You know what I mean? But, doing this and looking at things from, I would say, kind of a funnier perspective sometimes, it really does help. It just really does help. Let me tell you. And yes, I've been deciding to turn the captions off lately because it's just getting in the way of my focus sometimes. And sometimes people are just talking about something else. I mean, really. But anyway, I saw a couple people there and then they left. Anyway, it's a good thing that YouTube has let that feature come back because they took it away for a bit, to be honest. So moving on from that. I mean, yeah. So let's just kind of give an example of just how I deal with it, growing up. And I remember definitely after the time I attempted suicide. And, don't feel sorry for me. I swear, at one point, there are these people that are trying to say shit like, oh, I'm trying to simp with people, blah, blah, blah. No, I'm not trying to simp. Just learn from me, okay? Just learn from me. You don't feel sorry for me. Just learn. But anyway. So after I attempted suicide, I go to the hospital, right? Go through the process. And yeah, you could say that it was a bit of a nut house. It was a bit of a nut house. And, of course, I met plenty of strange people and, people with disabilities and people with, who were mentally ill, people who, had short term memory loss, or even just, you know, like the person that I was sharing a room with, he had Alzheimer's. And so by the time, I mean, especially by the next day, he would never know who I was. And I was at this hospital for a month. This guy would even forget to, as he was buckling his belt, he would forget to buckle it. And then so it would just leave that his pants open. Yes, that's the kind of guy that I roomed with for at least a few weeks until he, of course, sexually harassed me. And I was put into a different room. And so, yeah, that time I was just in a room by myself, which was better to say the least than being roomed with some other nut house person. So, anyway, and yeah, just a crazy experience. But, whenever you're in any kind of situation, guys, you've got to look at things from a different perspective too. And even after I attempted suicide, that just never took that away from me. Even after that, and of course, I talked with people, and it's like, oh, how did you attempt suicide? Oh, how did you attempt suicide? It's like, oh, I did this. And it's like, oh, I drank bleach for like every day for a week just to see what would happen. It's like, yeah, now you know what happens. Yeah, chemical reaction there. But anyway, and yes, I even joked like that at the time too. Oh. And I managed to find a couple of the nuttier guys to joke with sometimes too. And I remember this one guy. He was taught one. I kind of made friends with him, and so we're having a conversation. I was right next to them, and he was talking to the other guy. They both had a cast around their wrist because they cut themselves. Right, that's how they attempted suicide. And one of them said to the other, he's like, "Well, we at least have one thing in common." And then he's like, "What?" He's like, "Well, we have casts around our left wrist, so that means we're both right-handed, right?" And I'm just busting out laughing my ass off when he says that. I mean, I even laugh at that a bit even to this day because I would just say it's like dark humor. It's just so fucking dark, guys. It's just so dark. But with all seriousness, I mean, especially after you see shit like that, I would say that's even part of the reason why I decided to make videos like this in the first place. Is because, my God, it is just when you really do see how bad things can get. And this is like a better situation than some people have. There's plenty of people mentally ill. They get old. They start losing their minds, and they just get put on the streets, and they're just like that until the day they die. These people in the hospital, they're in a sense lucky to be at least in the hospital and have a bed to sleep in. I mean, just really do think of how bad it can seriously get. And I could also be that guy who I roomed with who basically forgets everything the next day because he's just so mentally ill, you know? I could be him. That's another thing to look at too. And again, that's just part of the reason why I talk to people. And I just see all these people on the internet nowadays. They just think they have it so fucking bad. No, you do not have it bad. You do not have it bad. No, you do not. And see how I'm laughing again? That's just how I push away those negative feelings because it is just so fucking bad. It is just so fucking bad, let me tell you. But yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to let you guys know that. And again, just don't feel sorry for me. But let me tell you something. I've seen so much shit that is just so bad that even to this day is part of the reason why I make these videos. And I do not feel fucking sorry for any of those fuckers who are trying to get everybody to simp for them. I do not feel sorry for a single fucking one of them. Let me tell you. But anyway, I will just stop this video. And I hope that at least a few people watching this video have learned at least something from watching this. Because again, that's the real reason why I make these videos. I'm not trying to make people feel sorry for me. I'm just trying to teach them something and help them out maybe a bit. That's if they're wanting the help, of course. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.